honest to God, the reputation of German trains is highly unearned as far as I'm concerned. In fact, when I made the arrangements to go to Strasbourg to meet Stéphane, I made sure that the train was direct with no changes, because I didn't want to get into a situation where I missed a connection, and then the whole day is bloody shot. I even took an Uber to and from the train station, even though there's train service not 100 meters from my house to get me to the train station. I don't trust it enough. I mean, how bad is that? Last year, in fact, we had an ice storm. In fact, I was coming out to visit Strasbourg with you, Stéphane. Had an ice storm. I fell, ass over tea kettle in my front yard. And I managed to make it to the main train station. And the train was canceled. After all this. Of course, I alerted Stéphane so he didn't have to waste his day. But then I went to get like a refund, because, the train's canceled. I can't make it. And they came up with some cockamamie thing that, we could reroute you and you could get there within 3 hours of when you're supposed to arrive. Therefore, you're not entitled to a refund. It's like, dude, you can see my return ticket would be 1 hour after I arrived at my destination. In what world does this make sense? So they would have none of it. They gave me a form. They said, well, if you fill out this form, provide all this bullshit, we'll give you 20% back. Well, I was kind of frustrated. I'm not going to fill out all this crap, and you have to use it by mail. You can't even do it by online, And so what I realized was, you know what? I bought this ticket on an American credit card. So it's much easier to call Chase and say, listen, I'm contesting this charge because they canceled the trip, than it is to fill out the forms. And by the way, I get 100%. So that's what I did.
Welcome to The Outliers Inn, produced by the Operational Excellence Society and sponsored by Zonatech Consulting Group International, with your hosts, Joseph Paris and David Schneider.
So basically, this is just a nice, fun, casual conversation. You just got to pretend we're at a bar someplace, and we're all just, shooting the shit and having a good time. And, there's no script. There's no anything. We just, basically go around. Mule and I will start it off with a little bit of insights, if you will, and then kick off the theme. So the theme, of course, is endings and beginnings, endings of the year and beginnings of a new year. But of course, it doesn't have to necessarily just be time related. Where did we lost Mule? He'll come back. He'll come back. He always does. Can't get rid of Mule. So that's the theme. You can talk about now. I believe, Donna, you've had endings and beginnings this year that you might want to share.
I have. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. So don't share it now because you just repeat yourself. And hopefully Mule will be back. And Pete, you've been retired, so I don't know, one day just blends into the other, I would imagine.
There's been some, certainly beginnings this year.
Yeah. And Stéphane, of course, has had endings and beginnings. So we only use people's first names, okay? And we usually do not speak of any businesses specifically by name unless somebody wants to volunteer it. But we won't do that on your behalf, just to, just to protect the innocent,
What kind of wild thing you got me into here, Joe?
Yeah, well, sometimes people drop an F-bomb like me. And of course, I try to bleep them out in post-process. But, it just ends up being one, so. Mule, where the heck did you go? They got Mule.
They did. Either that or he's eating his charcuterie board.
Charcuterie board.
Yeah. No, I was just having a kind of late snack and it was German meats. And I was, as always, it's one of the things about being retired, you just muse on things. And I was musing on what the German word for it was. Now I know it, I will never use it.
I'm going to kick it off anyway, because I don't want to, have us all waiting for him. And when he joins us, he can join us on video, and then I'll have to just work in the post process. How's that all sound?
That sounds good.
All right. So 3, 2. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Outliers Inn. I'm your solo host today, thus far, JP. Normally, I would have a sidekick, and that sidekick would be Mule some of the time, and some of the time it's Don, the beer man Burschnick. But Don is on assignment in Milwaukee, God bless him, and Mule was here and engaging and having a conversation, and then he wasn't. So today's theme is about endings and beginnings. And, we're shooting this, recording this here in December of 2023. COVID is but a distant memory now. People are out and about and shopping and Christmas marketing furiously. And as far as my endings and beginnings are concerned, I really didn't have too many in the way of here's the mule coming back. I didn't have too many endings this year. And let's see. Mule, you going to join us? Here he is. He's back.
Yeah.
I've already kicked this off. So you're on camera right now. You're on.
Oh, okay. My apologies, but I'm going to vent about technology. I have threat protection, right? Threat protection took the network down.
Well, the threat protection was in fact threatening.
Something was happening, something was attacking, and its action is to take the entire network down and force a reboot. Okay.
And well, hopefully that won't happen anymore today.
Hopefully. So anyway, my vent is over.
Hi. Well, I was just welcoming everybody to the show and sharing with them some of your dilemma. We didn't really know what the nature of the dilemma was, because you just sort of left. And I was just introducing the theme of endings and beginnings.
Oh, okay.
So,
what's that mean?
Well, it's December of 2023, and we're wrapping up a calendar year and starting off another one.
Oh.
But endings don't necessarily have to be about the end of the year, right? I mean, we could have had an ending during the year. It has nothing to do with the calendar, and of course, beginnings that might have started during the year. So,
well, my question is when does the orbit begin and when does the orbit end?
Well,
the calendar is tracking an orbit around the sun, right? Somebody somewhere said, "Oh, this is where we're going to start," and we all live by this silly calendar.
I think it had to do with some really sharp-eyed individuals from years gone by. I mean, can you imagine the person in primitive times saying, "Geez, the days are getting shorter and shorter and shorter," and then the next day it's getting longer by a half a minute, and it's like, "Oh, they're now getting longer." I mean, who's that pedantic? It must have been a German, I'm sure.
Oh, well, it would have predated the Germans. It would have come out of the Fertile Crescent. To go back that far, but yeah. So anyway, happy end of year, beginning of new year, et cetera, et cetera.
So what happened? What ending or beginning did you have that was noteworthy this year, Mule?
Well, I had a dear friend of mine pass away.
Oh, sorry to hear.
And, it was a surprise to him and his family and everything else. And When I found out about it, the family was still kind of reeling. But one of the things they were reeling about was probably a month before, they had to move unplanned very quickly out of their home. And they moved everything into storage lockers, and they were spread across 23 storage lockers. And my friend had passed away. He's was a year younger than I am. And his son called me up and he said, yeah, this is what happened. He says, the thing I'm really struggling with is all of the stuff. And so we kind of marshaled an idea, and I became an Amazon bookseller.
Okay.
And that's the new beginning. There's 8,000. I'm surrounded by about 8,000 books right now.
His library was 8,000 books?
Yes, sir. Yes,
oh my
sir.
Gosh. That's significant.
An incredible collection of books. There are first edition books. There are reprints of books printed in the 16th, 17th century in this collection. He was big into swords, and so there's all sorts of sword fighting books. He was a philosopher. You talk about, there's probably 100 different books about Descartes or by Descartes. Multiple copies of the same books.
So does one of them tell whether or not Descartes comes before the horse, or?
I'll tell you what, there's times where I think that, truly he was a drunken old fart. I drink and therefore I am. But so and part of this is helping them out, getting them out of the storage lockers. And the books was an easy deal to do because I've got a warehouse. And so the warehouse went in, and that gave them the room to really go through the rest of the stuff and clean out and get it worked out. So it was a big financial help to them to get out of those storage lockers, because that was $3,000 a month. And we shrank it down to 2 storage lockers, which could live within their budget. And, all the books ended up here. So load after load after load of books, which meant also opening boxes of books that had been sealed up for years and cataloging the books and identifying what the books are, and then figuring out, how do we list these on Amazon, and how do you do it in mass and bulk?
Right.
And so it's been a fascinating journey of really, how do you start a business on Amazon, and how unfriendly the Amazon environment is for the individual seller. It's a tough environment. We've sold $6,000 worth of books. We've only seen $110 cash.
Oh.
Started selling. We sold our first book the second week of October.
Yeah, but is that because of the hold that Amazon might have for returns and stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And so the hold is published 7 days after the projected delivery of the book. So, figure 5 days in shipping or 4 days in shipping, and then you have the 7 days. And then that hold, that becomes net proceeds, but you then can't harvest those net proceeds until the end of the active period.
And the active period is a month or a quarter?
Is 14 days. It's a 14-day period. So if you're only with the 7-day hold, then your cash flow is beautiful. It works. But if Amazon thinks that you're a risk, and they can't tell you why they think you're a risk, it's just the algorithm says you're a risk, you get slammed into 14-day hold, which actually ends up being a 45-day hold of your cash when you sit down and really figure out the cash flow. So, yeah. And the challenges of uploading, what's that data need to look like? There's no real standardization. You have the same fields called 4 different things in 4 different upload files. And if you mix the words up in the title, nope, it fails. So
think eBay next time.
Well, it's books. It's books, and where's the marketplace for books?
Right.
Amazon. There's a few others, and we're experimenting with them too. but the whole goal is we figure that this library is maybe worth about $100,000 at retail value,
Right.
but not all of it's going to sell.
Yeah, I think you have to go out to Pawn Stars there and get that young lady that evaluates the books, and especially for the first edition ones. I think that some of our guests might have a first edition of my book.
Well, let's get some other people up here chatting with us.
Yeah, it sounds good. So why don't we start with some of the newbies here? Donna, why don't you come on board? What has begun or ended or both in your world?
So first, I think I'm one of those people that has one of your first editions. So I'm pretty sure. Signed, sealed, and delivered. I had a really exciting year. So after 20 years as a tech executive and chief information officer, where I spent a lot of time on lean strategy and OpEx studies and courses and all that fun stuff, I realized I could give myself a promotion to chief executive officer if I launched my own internet marketing agency. So I created my own business to help people increase customer activity. So that's what I did. And DonnaO'Leary.com was born. And in 2024, I'll be launching Big Paw, the Animal Business Accelerator, where I'm specifically targeting animal businesses because I really want to help animals. As you can tell from my little picture, I'm big into it.
So let's deconstruct a little bit of this. So Donna O'Leary, what is its superpower? If it was a superhero, what would be its superpowers be?
I think the superpower is really, I have a framework, which is create, connect, convert, and continue. And I take organizations through that process where what they actually get is reach, revenue, and results. So what they're able to do is create marketing hubs, for example, and offers to increase awareness with customers. Then they use, search engine optimization and social media management and email newsletters and blogs to do the connect piece. That's also reach and awareness. You've got to start there. Then you take those offers and you do an e-commerce store or a funnel to sell a product or a service. Now you're converting. So now you're making real money. And that's where the revenue comes in. And then the big thing in the digital space right now is the ability to create continuity. Because if you don't have like subscription or membership where you've got that monthly recurring revenue, you really don't have a business. You've got promotions that you're constantly working on. So the real results come when you take all of the three that I just talked about, and then you move it into continuity, putting it all together into like the pet space. If you have a dog at home, if you ordered like a bark box, that's continuity. That's a monthly subscription that you pay for, that's monthly revenue. That's also your ability to sell that business in the future, because now you look good to somebody that wants to buy it because you can prove what your monthly recurring revenue is. And I would tell Mule that, Amazon's great, but you probably need your own site. That's an awesome story. Like, as you were talking, I was like, I wish I knew that gentleman. He's pretty amazing. And like, if you can
wait until you get to know him, that'll wear right out.
Well, Joe, you're talking about me.
Yeah, that's right.
She's talking about Pasquale.
Okay.
And I mean, you think about it with the name Pasquale. Yes, he was an amazing gentleman. Loud, obnoxious Italian, and but exciting to be around, and one of the few people that was intellectual challenge because of what he knew, the breadth of what he knew and the depth of what he knew. So
very cool.
But website, and I love that idea, Donna. That's one of the things that his son and I have talked about, is actually Pasquale wrote quite a bit. And so what we've been talking about is how do we take some of that material that he created over the years that never got published, and how do we publish it? And so that's another turn. But just on the sale of the books themselves, we want to turn those books over as quickly as possible and pushing them through Amazon. We've already unloaded, shipped over 300 books since we launched in October. So getting the inventory sold is what will help fund some of the other things that Nicholas wants to do to help monetize what his dad left behind.
That's awesome.
So Donna, and I have been talking about this particular business venture of yours for quite some time.
I looked back. I actually created an LLC in 2004.
Okay,
After a Lark Tavern dinner, I'm sure there were cordials after dinner and walking. I specifically remember walking through the park and talking about this launch. It took me a minute.
Yeah. At least you probably had the opportunity to think it all the way through, right?
Right.
But you actually jumped out of a nice, more or less steady position, even though it might have not been aligned politically to your beliefs, to start this. I mean, so that took a little bit of guts, didn't it?
It definitely took a little bit of guts, and it took a little bit of planning. I mean, I signed up with one of the premier boutiques in digital marketing, software coaching and mentoring, and I've been studying for 2 years. So, you're never too old to learn, right? And I even took a social media course from an 18-year-old on, what she's doing, because she's super knowledgeable and has 10 million followers on everything she posts. So, it's about the planning. I think if you plan properly, and you have the right network around you, it's not quite as scary to take that leap, but you have to take the leap. And apparently it was scary because it took me since 2004 to actually take the leap. So.
Yeah. Now you have another venture that has to do with critters.
I do. I am a licensed New York State wildlife rehabilitator. And I was just elected to the board to North Country Wild Care. So that kind of goes along with my animal stuff. And I'm really, as soon as I got licensed, I fractured my knee. So it kind of made chasing after critters or caring for things a little bit difficult. But as soon as I got off the crutches, I went back to transporting. But what I realized is, much like I'm helping standard business folks, from like lead generation, sales, e-commerce, book funnels, all that kind of stuff. The animal businesses, I figured I can do the same for them, but I can help impact so many more animals with my technology knowledge than I could by my 2 hands and my brain and taking them into my own house.
So walk me through a little bit about what the critter side, and what's the name of the critter side again? Big
North
Paws?
Country, well, bigpaw.com is what I'm launching. That'll be
Uh-huh.
the business accelerator. And I'm aligned with a nonprofit, North Country Wild Care, which is a 9-county region where we do wildlife rehabilitation.
Okay. So you find wild animals, not just like house pets, right? I mean, you're talking about critters that are normally found in the wild,
Sure.
that are lame, and you rehabilitate them and reintroduce them back. Or what if they're not able to be reintroduced back?
The majority of them are, thankfully, and that's really our ultimate goal, because the wild should live in the wild. But if they're not, there are a number of educational programs, where, like, I just did a holiday event at our local mall where we had a black vulture and a Eurasian owl and a barred owl and 2 of the tiniest owls in New York State. as well as a South American falcon, that we were able to display and explain to folks, and then tell them. Now, those are all educational animals. You don't bring rehabs out in the public
Right.
because you want them to have a healthy fear of.
Okay, so I hear rehabs, and I hear display. Now, when I think about display and I think about animals, I think about ones that don't move anymore.
No, these are quite mobile.
Okay. Okay.
The black vulture almost tipped over her stand mid-display, so
Okay.
definitely mobile.
Okay, good. And that Polly, right, coming back, it's demised and whatnot. It's
Nope,
nope,
it's not
good.
a movie.
Okay, good. All right. Speaking of Monty Python and all things British, why don't we invite Pete to the forefront? Belly up to the bar, Pete. How you doing?
Yeah, good. I could do with a drink actually. It's 5:30 here in the UK, so a bit later than you guys.
Started with the scotch here, so
Yeah. Oh, good on you, man. I did smile a little bit because Donna was talking about relocating animals in New York State, and having been to the Yankees quite a few times, I think I've seen quite a lot in that place. So there must be plenty to go at, I would have thought, in there. Yeah, I've also been to the Bronx Zoo, which is also a very interesting experience. I do remember, not least of which guessing which side of the bars I was on, but that's another piece. Yeah,
we lost our pandas this year. Well, we lost all the pandas. They all went back to China.
Same in Edinburgh, by the way. They've just sent them back from Edinburgh with bagpipes and all back to China, and a complete failure of getting new cubs, but never mind. Apparently they're not endangered anymore, so it's okay.
Which is good, because they're really bad at reproducing.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah. Yeah. If only humans had the same problem.
Right. Right. So what's new or ending with you?
Well, it's been an interesting year. As you know, Joe, I've been doing some work with the health service in the UK, specifically helping with an apprenticeship in improvement. So that's been interesting. That started last year. But I have transitioned, which is nice, because when I started, the people who were helping were desperate for help on stats and all that stuff, which I'm fine with, but is not actually what I enjoy very much. And I've made a change, so I'm spending much more of my time now in change and leadership and culture, which, given my Lego background, is something I'm much more interested in. So I've been doing some of that. And enjoying it very much, not least of all working with some pretty experienced health service professionals who are learning new skills and learning and having to think in a somewhat different way to the way they've been used to. Not least of all because it's, as you probably know, it's a big national thing in the UK, and it's very hierarchical. Everybody looks upwards. Everybody worries about being sued and all that good stuff. And that's a difficult place to make change happen. So it's been very interesting. I'm learning a lot. Hopefully they're learning a lot. They haven't thrown me out yet, so it's going okay. So I'm doing a bit of that. Also, a lot of thinking about something new for myself, which probably will start to materialize in the early new year, and I'll talk more about that perhaps next year. There's that. I've taken up fishing after 54 years of.
What kind of fishing? Trout fishing?
No, of course. So okay. Lake fishing, carp, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And not completely unedible unless you're Eastern European. They seem to like those things, but we don't. Ever since the monks stopped eating them in the UK, we don't bother with them. There's a lot of them, so I've been doing a bit of that, which has been great fun. Which means we've started a new. And the site we live, there are 2 lakes that residents can use. We've started an angling club. We've done a whole bunch of stuff there. we've had a lot of fun with that. So doing some community stuff, which has been good fun. And I also went back to the Boy Scouts, having done quite a lot of work.
Awesome.
When I was in Wales. I was an area commissioner when I lived in Wales, but now I'm down in the south of England. I kind of gave up that operational role, and I've taken on a finance role for a group, and I'm going to take over as chair in the new year for as you know, on the board of trustees. So doing that stuff at the moment, which I'm loving.
That's awesome. That's your hierarchy. It reminds me of an episode I had at Bryant Park in New York City. I don't know if you've been to Bryant Park. It's a beautiful little park. It's my favorite in all of New York City. It's right behind the library there.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sitting outside, and they have this pianist playing pretty much anything. A person could go up and say, "Play this," and they would sing along. Now, truth be told, most of these people shouldn't be singing. But you know what? They were, and it was quite enjoyable to listen to anyway. So a little bit of advice, and this goes to hierarchy, and you said looking up. So I'm sitting there at this table, and a bird shit right on the table in front of me, right next to my drink. So when a bird shits on the table in front of you, do not look up. Okay, this is some real like, because when you look up, you also happen to usually have your mouth open. Okay, and nothing good could possibly come from that scenario. So there's a little bit of wisdom I've shared on the Outliers Inn. Usually devoid of wisdom, but that is some real wisdom you can use.
One of my very favorite cultural pictures, which is slightly rude, is of a US style telegraph pole with stages below it.
Yes.
With a bird on the top and other birds underneath it. And the birds underneath are all covered in guano. And the bird on the top is clean, of course. And it says, you know what, when I look down on my people, all I see is crap. And the birds underneath say, you know what, every time we look up, all we see are backsides.
That's it. Yep, a lot of truth to that. So why don't we invite Stéphane to join the crowd here and see what's going on with him.
Hi, JP. Good to be back at the inn.
It's good to have you, Stéphane.
Thank you. So, ending and beginning. Oh, what ended is my former job, because, I started to be full-time operational excellence support. I was helping people running the show, explaining them how they could be better. So good so far that now I am running the show. So they asked me to step in rather than advising those who I was advising. So this is a big ending, because I have to some sort of draw a curtain on my former activities. But now I'm looking forward to the new business, which is now I am in charge. So I will have to listen to people that will tell me, "Oh, you should do it like this." Are you sure? No, I don't think so. I will do it the way I want to do. I will make, the life of people that will advise me to say, you should do it that way. No, of course I will listen to them, because I've been in that role. But, moving from being an influencer to, being the decision maker is a big change. But it's good to go to be in your career to be the influencer, because it's so much harder to influence people than just, directing people to do or to ask them what you want to do. So this is a very good lesson in life. Is, once in your career, if you have the chance to be in a role when you have no direct report and you have to influence, you learn so much. This is very useful. So I will advise anyone to get that experience in their career. It's very useful. And then you learn a lot, because of course, when you cannot say you have to do it because I said so, you have to be a bit smarter than that.
Yeah, well, it's a real challenge taking the leadership role and being the decider. To borrow a phrase from a former president, being the decider, because you have to learn how to trust your people to give you advice. Because if it's very easy for you to become the bottleneck, you know what I mean? Where you have to second guess and, third guess everything that's given to you. Of course, establishing that level of trust is a challenge too. But you're going to have to share next year after you get a whole year under your belt, which you would rather be, the decider or the influencer.
I will tell you after. Right. Now, what I have already observed, because someone was running two jobs at the same time, because it came out a bit of a surprise, but realized that you have to be much more careful with your words, because you say, "Oh, you know what? I think we should go this," and then all of a sudden realize, no, I didn't say we do this. I say I think. There is a difference, but then people can't always capture the difference in the words you are using, and then you have to be extra careful about what you are telling people, because what you are thinking out loud as a sort of brainstorming exercise become reality the next day before you even realize, and say, what the heck happening here? I didn't say we do that. Oh, but that's what you said yesterday. No, sorry, I misexpressed myself. Or, this is not what I intended to do. But
the secret there, Stéphane, is I always, when I'm in that role, it's I'm just spitballing here. I'm just throwing some ideas out. Let's not act on this, but let's get some ideas out here. And by prefacing whatever I'm going to dump out of my head that way, then I found that my direct reports wouldn't immediately jump and go do it.
I learned this. I realized.
Yeah.
On few things I didn't get that trick yet, and I say, but why are they all moving? Because you are not used to that. When you're an influencer, people say yes, 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 and nothing happened. Or sometimes it happened, of course. But then when you are running the show, you say, "Oh, let's do that," and even you feel, "Oh, let's go in that direction." It's already done before you finish, and say, "Well, I am not used to this." This is a change. So you have to be a bit more careful, because then people can waste a lot of time on things that are not adding so much value. So, it can snowball very inefficiently.
Yeah. So, you have any big plans for the holidays?
Yes, I am moving to the other side of the Atlantic. Maybe, in the things coming, I am moving to Washington, D.C. for the Christmas break.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, that sounds
be in
great.
my backyard.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe you guys should connect, because you're just outside of DC, aren't you? There,
I'm 2 miles east of runway 30, Dulles International. So he can land 15 minutes later, be at the curb. So, but yeah, let's definitely get together, Stéphane. If we can make that magic happen.
No, for sure. I am not only going to DC, I'm also going to Maryland and to Virginia, because I will be crossing over to Alexandria and going to the other business, so traveling a bit around.
Yeah.
And sightseeing. So
I didn't hear Philadelphia on that list.
I still plan, but I'm trying to convince not to, but apparently, I will have no choice. I have to follow. I'm not.
Well, just make sure it's not on a Sunday that the Eagles play, because otherwise you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, but the Eagles season is done, so he doesn't have to worry about it now.
Oh, okay.
I also learned a lesson at home. I'm not running the show.
Well, I got to tell you, it was really great meeting you in Strasbourg there for the Christmas market. That was a great time. Great restaurant too.
Likewise, we should do that. If anyone comes over to that area of the world, you're always welcome to reach out. We can have a bit of meat with how do you say that, iron cooked, or how do you describe that in English?
We had Stéphane and I had a steak that was cooked with those old irons that you used for clothes that weighed like 20 pounds, and you heated it up.
Big flat iron.
Yeah, big flat iron. That's what they use to cook the meat. They put it on your plate. They put this big friggin' iron on top of it. Sizzles away. A few moments later, we had a nice, delicious steak, and we found the good Glühwein mugs eventually.
Yes, we did.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it was funny. We realized this is a lesson in life. When you seize an opportunity to take it, we saw those cups, and then it was the very beginning of our time in the Christmas market. So we say, "Oh, this must be all over the place." Then we walk around. After a while, we realized, "Oh, but those cups were the best." So at the end, we did all the Christmas market to come back to the way we started to say, okay, this is the only place when you can find those cups. So, lesson learned, when you seize an opportunity, take it, because
Yeah, exactly.
you make it want.
And it was a miracle of miracles that Deutsche Bahn, the trains were actually on time as advertised. I mean,
Wolf.
honest to God, the reputation of German trains is highly unearned as far as I'm concerned. In fact, when I made the arrangements to go to Strasbourg to meet Stéphane, I made sure that the train was direct with no changes, because I didn't want to get into a situation where I missed a connection, and then the whole day is bloody shot. I even took an Uber to and from the train station, even though there's train service not 100 meters from my house to get me to the train station. I don't trust it enough. I mean, how bad is that?
The German railroad never had a very good reputation for being on time. It's the Japanese who never miss the mark.
And the Swiss are also right up there.
The Swiss too.
The Swiss, you can put your clock on the time when the train or the bus are passes in Switzerland. That's the way it works.
Yeah, not in Germany. Last year, in fact, we had an ice storm. In fact, I was coming out to visit Strasbourg with you, Stéphane. Had an ice storm. I fell, ass over tea kettle in my front yard. And I managed to make it to the main train station. And the train was canceled. After all this. Of course, I alerted Stéphane so he didn't have to waste his day. But then I went to get a refund, because, the train's canceled. I can't make it. And they came up with some cockamamie thing that, we could reroute you and you could get there within 3 hours of when you're supposed to arrive. Therefore, you're not entitled to a refund. It's like, dude, you could see my return ticket is would be 1 hour after I arrived at my destination. In what world does this make sense? So they would have none of it. They gave me a form. They said, well, if you fill out this form, provide all this bullshit, we'll give you 20% back. Well, I was kind of frustrated. I'm not going to fill out all this crap, and you have to use it by mail. You can't even do it online, And so what I realized was, you know what? I bought this ticket on an American credit card. So it's much easier to call Chase and say, listen, I'm contesting this charge because they canceled the trip, than it is to fill out the forms. And by the way, I get 100%. So that's what I did. Little handy tip, two handy tips from JP on this end of year episode.
American Express works really well with that too.
Yeah.
But it's something that Donna had said earlier, kind of struck me. You walked away from a perfectly good paycheck, didn't you?
I sure did.
Isn't that, it's both a mixture of frightening and exciting.
Yes, it turns you both bipolar. You go from intense ecstasy to oh my God, what did I do?
Oh yeah, fear. What the hell did I do to myself?
But
I did.
I
did the same thing in 2007.
Did you?
Oh awesome. Yeah. And it's that bipolar feeling. Yeah. This is the most exciting thing, and I'm so rocked for this challenge, and I'm up for it. And it's a complete change to launch your own business than anything that you've done cocooned inside of a corporate structure. There's so much more involved with it. And so there's all that excitement and challenge, but then you get into it and you go, what the hell did I do to myself?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we were talking about endings and beginnings, and I think, so I always go home to Buffalo for the holidays, for Christmas. My mother and my family, I grew up in Buffalo. I'm on the eastern side of New York. So it's a 5-hour drive for me to get there.
Eastern side?
She lives on the eastern side.
I live on the eastern side. I live in Albany, New York.
Yes.
And they're in Western New York.
Yes.
And So, the snow capital of the world, essentially. But I was driving there last Christmas. I think it had a lot to do with my decision on finally getting off the fence, since 2004, making that move, regardless of the fear factor. I hit black ice and did a 360, then I did a 720, then I did 900 degrees, all while bouncing, like my head hit the top of the ceiling in the car. I was like, even with a seatbelt, I was all over the place. For the non-engineers listening, 900 degrees means I'm now sideways on the New York State Thruway. And it's nighttime, and every time I did a 360, I could see headlights coming at me because sometimes in that circle, you're facing them, right? So now
Mhm.
you're like the wrong way on the throughway. So you want to talk about fear factor. That was it. So then I was sideways. I had to look over my shoulder. Luckily, I saw the lights coming at me had slowed down. They had apparently saw my lights going in circular fashion and thought it pretty smart to slow down. I pulled over, kind of pinched myself. Okay, I'm still alive. All right. But what they say is really true. Your life really does flash before your eyes. And I made a decision right then and there. I'm not done. I'm not ready. I have more to give. And that's really the reason for the new beginning. So it still took a lot to walk away, and I made sure that I planned properly to do it, hence the coaching and the whole, process of learning. Because, I'm running a business is different than being a chief information officer. It's completely different. And I wanted to make sure that I could offer people, I want happy customers. So they have to be served better. So I still have the fear factor. But knowing the impetus, I think there's a little less fear. Doesn't erase the bipolar nature of being an entrepreneur, but it does lessen it a little.
It's funny that you say that, and with that, Dave, and you're both sharing this. When I started my business, I started it when I had nothing. Okay, when I say nothing, I had nothing to lose. I had everything to gain. You both made your leap when you had something to lose. Okay, so I think that it takes a little bit more guts to make that leap when you have something to lose versus when you have nothing to lose. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever.
It does. It does. And adding to my pucker factor is that, yes, my wife had a very good job, but she wasn't working full time. And then I had two small children. My eldest was 6 at the time, and my youngest 4 when I walked away. That whole pucker factor, it was a lot of conversations for close to a year with my wife about what opportunities were out there, and was this the time to not stay on the corporate path but go off independent, because I had always figured at some point in time I wanted to retire and go off and do my own thing. And every opportunity that came up was putting us in places that would harm her career. And so part of our calculus and why she was willing to take the risk is that I knew that if we stayed where we were physically, that it would help her career. And I also knew that I could stick this job out, but I'd be miserable. And so it was time to go. And that misery index was huge by the time I decided to go. But I had decided to go. And then, as Donna did, I didn't spend years doing it. I spent about 7 months figuring out what I wanted to do, how I was going to do it, what the structure was going to be, what I was what I was going to do. And then also with the understanding that at some point in time, we are going to physically move because my wife's employer is going to make her return to the mothership, which is here in Chantilly, Virginia. And, how to be flexible. I needed to have some changeability to what the business was going to be, because also I could see what was happening on the horizon. This was 2006, 2007. And I could see the writing on the wall of how the shit was going to hit the fan in the financial markets, and, scary times all the way around. But, hats off to you, Donna, for making the move. It's exciting. It's fun. It's scary, but I've found it to be highly rewarding, and I would never go back to being an employee again, ever.
It's funny. I'm thinking about the movie Parenthood. I think it's Parenthood with Steve Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people that like the merry-go-round and people that are like the roller coaster, and I'm a roller coaster kind of person. And I think I'm certain that Mule and Donna, I know Donna is. I mean,
Hell, I ride motorcycles, man.
That's right.
So do I.
That's right. So does Donna. That's right.
Oh, cool.
What's your equipment there, Donna, that you ride?
I still have my license, but I haven't ridden in a while. I actually had a Harley Sportster 1200. I'm one of those crazy people that went out, did the 3-day get your license, and on Monday went out and bought a 1200. So yeah, roller coaster. Good explanation.
Yeah.
I've got a little Honda Rebel now, and I promise myself if I ride it enough, I'll buy another Harley. But I haven't exactly proven that out yet. But
you're definitely a Harley person. You are definitely a Harley person. So what about Peter and Stéphane? Are you guys Harleys or those Vespas?
Yeah, I had a Vespa years ago. It was lovely, particularly exciting on ice.
Yeah, I bet. But at least it was easy to put your feet down.
Yeah. I once came off it on ice, and I slid along the road, and my lunchbox and my computer went past me as I disappeared up the road on my backside. So, yeah, no, I don't ride bike at all. I have a brother-in-law who is not only owns 2 Harleys, but also has customized them himself. And is now being sought so that he could sell them back to Harley, which is an interesting experience. He's a free spirit.
That's very cool.
He's the ultimate free spirit, actually. Yeah.
So getting back to Donna and her experience on the thruway. Back when I lived in the States in Binghamton, I'm driving to the office. And my wife is from Poland. She's got, of course, a heavy Polish accent. And she calls me on my cell phone as I'm driving on the highway. And she says, there's a report on the radio that the black guys are causing accidents on the highway. I'm thinking, what black guys are on the highway? Why? What are they gotta get these guys off the highway. And we went on for like a minute before I realized she was saying black ice. Not black guys. Like, what the heck? Oh dear me. So what about you, Stéphane? What do you got going for the other than the end of the year? What's on your big thing for next year, 2024?
That's a good question. I think, did you know what is to run another marathon? Because I gave up running marathons for something like 10 years. This year I ran one again and I enjoy it.
That's great.
So I will try to run another one, but then decrease the time, because in 10 years I took like something like 50 minutes. Then this is not good. So I need to decrease that a bit. So that's
probably I'll tell you what, unless I was on a bicycle, it's still better than my time.
Yeah, still, and I took a bike again, to trying for the marathon, which because I'm not the Harley guy or the Vespa guy, I'm the just bicycle guy, I am the engine. but like it's, that's the way. So, but then I'm not going that far because, of course, I cannot put petrol like, at the station. I need food, proper food.
Excellent. Well, I think that we've all shared our endings and beginnings today. I really appreciate everybody joining us. And I wish everybody, not just on today's session, but beyond, in our audience, our listeners, the most joyous of holidays and a new year. And I think there's only one thing left to say there, Mule.
Yeah, just don't drive like my brother.
And don't drive like my brother.
Click and clack.
I
love those guys.
It's funny because this series was actually inspired by Click and Clack. I forget which one of the brothers died, but he died, and I was like, wow, I used to listen to Click and Clack all the time. And Benjamin Taylor, the original co-host on this, he's in the UK. He shared how much he listened to them. I'm thinking, you're in the UK and I'm here, and you're still listening to them. And it was just like we just started like reminiscing, and we said, we should start a podcast that is basically modeled after the show. Now, it never really quite came off that way because we don't reach like the entire call-in audience of the world. But it's more or less, at the end of the show, we always end it that way. Just a little bit of a nod to the inspiration.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Maybe we should look at people with 200,000 miles on their operational excellence clock and sort them out.
That's right.
Maybe that's the answer.
That's right. And say, geez, it's making this noise when I do this. Well, don't do that anymore. That's what I couldn't understand. When
Stop
I get up
it.
to, it's like, don't do that.
You have been listening to another episode of the Outliers Inn with your hosts, Joseph Paris and David Schneider. This program is produced by the Operational Excellence Society and sponsored by Zonatech Consulting Group International.